Hey, team play. We're going live or not? Hey, team players. Joe Rockey here with Local Football Flavor. And in today's episode, we are going to be breaking down what the market of the sports books are telling us that each team is going to finish at. We're going to go through the power rankings according to that metric. We're also going to be breaking down 4 amazing bets, 3 of which the wrong team is currently in the favor by a strong degree of magnitude. Awesome opportunities to make some money. But as we start, Bob, as always, worst team in football. We're going to have it all year. Arizona, baby.
I mean, I thought they had this game won very, very early in the game, and they end up losing. I mean, you can't, when you have a lead that tremendous. It reminds you of the Atlanta Falcons in the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. When you have a lead that tremendous, you just can't lose it. But this is the thing about the Cardinals, is that there is nothing about that team that's going to keep them to have a lead. Their defense is not good. Their offense is not good. So whether their offense can score points, it does not matter, because their defense cannot stop you from scoring points. And it's a fear for all Arizona Cardinals fans, if there are any left. They will probably end up being the last team come the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's as bad as, what was it, 28-3 or anything like that. But obviously, being up by 3 touchdowns in the beginning of the third quarter, you should not let that game go. You just shouldn't. And the one thing I do have to say about Arizona in their favor is that offense looked much, much better this week. However, it also was a situation where it was the Giants' defense isn't very good.
And no, they're actually surprisingly not good. And that's that's the weird thing about it, because they have pieces on their team and it's just not gelling. There's something wrong with the New York Giants this year. First game, we blamed the weather and a good Dallas defense. You couldn't do the same thing this week. And for Arizona,
took it to them. I mean, I guess that's the way to say it. Dobbs was completing more routine passes. I mean, their defense sucked. I mean, their defense fell apart.
And that's the reason they're here.
That's exactly the reason they're here. And let's go to another team that's probably going to be here all year. And I can't believe they're traded their first-round pick, Bob. Man, is this going to be the first year where we see a team legitimately earn 1 and 2 overall? Like, it's possible.
I mean, this sucks for the Houston Texans, because at least for the first 2 games of the season, garbage time is really, really helping CJ Stroud get into a zone. And if garbage time is ever helpful for rookie, this is tremendous for CJ Stroud. He's the league leader in passing yards so far out of 2 games this year. Yeah. That tells you that the running game sucks. That tells you they can't get anything going on the ground. And the defense isn't really stopping anybody either. So the one thing that they had a little bit of last year is still not good this year. And I think the Houston Texans, however, are in a much better position than the Arizona Cardinals. So from 32-31, there is, for me, a very big disparity between what the Arizona Cardinals are throwing out on the field on a daily-day basis and what the Houston Texans are throwing out on the field on a day-to-day basis. And I like that Houston is leaning younger. Their wide receivers look good. CJ Stroud has looked good. He hasn't thrown a pick yet. He's making way better decisions than Justin Fields ever will. And it looks like this offense could surprise people in certain games, because they're going to be able to move the ball like they couldn't really do last year. But this defense is going to keep them out of games. And there is a big difference between, like I said, I think Arizona is a firm 32. And Houston is like...
Well, to your point, you're exactly right on that. The way that the books have it right now is that the biggest gap of the entire 32 spread is from this 32-31 gap. This is the only one that is nearly 2 games large. Only one that's over a game and a half, actually, in terms of total projection as far as final result. And the Texans are, they're not exactly close to the next worst team, but they're not instrumentally never going to catch up like Arizona is. And I'm sort of leaning that just watching Arizona, I think they're a funner watch than the Texans because the Texans are just going to get crock-potted. They're just going to slowly turn. Arizona's had a lead at halftime in both their games and blown it. There's something fun about a team blowing a game. I like watching that.
I mean, yeah, especially if you're a fan of the other team that's playing them. And that's
Or
the thing
your suicide pick.
That's the thing about the Cardinals, though. Their offense has pieces. We knew that going into the season. We knew that James Conner was there. We knew that Hollywood Brown could move the ball. We know those two players. But we also know they gave up all of their defensive stars, retired or got traded away, or they didn't know what to do with them. So they're in a division that has teams that can score. And that is not good when you don't have a good defense. And that's going to be a big problem going forward for the Arizona Cardinals, for sure.
For both of them. All right, let's go to number 30. Panthers, there's not a lot that you can really say about that offense. I mean, they got a C-plus level running back who was their stud, who they tried selling in Sanders. Their best receiver is old man Thielen, who was realistically should have been contemplating retirement after last year. And it's an Ohio State quarterback. It's not going to work. I don't have anything else to add. I mean, this team's in trouble. They got Burns back, which was nice, but it doesn't matter if you don't score.
Yeah, I mean, so Bryce went to Alabama, remember, where C.J. Stroud was.
I mixed them up. My bad. Stroud's these guys might eventually get to that spot. Which I think
so here's the thing. Here's the thing for Bryce Young is this team has, and it was a worry of a lot of Carolina Panthers fans going into this year about cohesion, especially on the offense, because essentially speaking, not one player that is currently a integral piece of their offensive skill position units was on the team last year.
No.
So you have a new quarterback.
I mean, Mechie was. No, correction. Mechie's
he's on the Texans.
I'm mixing all these guys up.
You had Sanders, who was on the Eagles, Bryce Young, college. You had Hayden Hurst, who came, I believe, from Cincinnati.
That's right.
Then Thielen came from Minnesota. Chark came from
every team
Detroit, I believe. I think his last team was Detroit. And then you've got the rookie Mingo. So not one of those pieces has played together outside of preseason, outside of training camp. So you walk into the season and you're just throwing Bryce Young to the fire. I mean, for his credit, he has been competent enough, at least in the Saints game, to do some things. Atlanta, you didn't have enough time because you didn't have the ball to do things with. But this team needs a lot of cohesion because this defense, it has the right pieces there. They can stop you on a couple of drives, but they just need the offense to do something. And right now, you feel really bad for Panthers fans because those are two games that you could have won, but it's not unexpected, right?
It's hard to win with a rookie. Most rookies don't win.
So not only are you overcoming the rookie part of it, but all of your skill position players haven't played for that team before. They've never played together. So this is, and in the preseason, they only played a certain amount of snaps together. So they're not going deep in the game. So you are, just like we had talked about, where it takes offenses some time to get going and defenses look better at the beginning of the season, typically because offenses haven't really found their rhythm and routine. This is a team that I think hopefully will be helped by rhythm as the season goes forward. But that is what we expected from this team in the first place. So having them at 30, they have 2 losses. It makes sense. It seems fair.
Yeah.
But again, the disparity, I think, between Houston and Carolina I think Houston and Carolina is much closer than that disparity again between Houston and Arizona.
Which absolutely is. And the one thing in Carolina's standpoint, when looking at the other of the bottom 5 here, and that's going to be including Belichick when I get to there, these guys have a coach who can take them to the promised land. That not promised land being back to respectability, back to the middle of the league. These guys aren't going to be buried in the bottom, unlike our next team, who probably should be the first coach fired this year.
Okay. Before you say a thing, this team is a problem.
Yes.
And the Chicago Bears have a decision to make. And we all know this as fans of the NFL is...
No, they don't know it. I've told them the entire offseason.
No. I'm saying, as fans, you either fall on this... At week 1, before week 1, you fell onto the side of he just needs to develop. By now, week 2, you have come to grips with the fact that he is not it. He is not the guy. He is, he looked good in the first half against Green Bay, but he wasn't asked to do a lot. This game, he was asked to do more. You mean the game
where they left like 20 in the second half when it got real?
I'm saying he looked good in the first half. But again, as I say that, I say it with pause because he wasn't asked to do much. He still went 7 for 7, but it was only for like 70 yards. So he wasn't asked to do much. So it looked good on paper, right? But when you go into what happened this game and you look at the tape and you look at the TikToks and you look up, Acho and you look up at Shannon Sharp just breaking these games down, you can see that he's scared to make a decision.
He is.
And because he's scared to make a decision, it doesn't matter how good or how bad the skill position players are for the Chicago Bears. It very might well be that DJ Moore could go off every game for 150 yards if Justin Fields had the confidence in his decision-making to do it. But he can't because Justin Fields is not the guy. He isn't him. And what I heard, which was really humorous, but, this is something we talked about when we were just talking about Tua and stuff like that. And, like true passers versus rushing quarterbacks is if you stick Justin Fields at running back and got Caleb Williams as your quarterback, you might actually have a pretty decent team.
He'd break. Justin Fields would break.
I understand it, but this is what we are now relegated to. If you are a Bears fan, you are talking about having a gifted athlete and not knowing what to do with him and not getting him to a point where he develops into a good passer. And Eberflus needs fired today, not tomorrow, not the next day. He needs fired right now because when you have a talent in Justin Fields with those legs and you want to develop that, you need a coach that's going to do that. And the Bears, Eberflus is not him. And at this point in time, Justin Fields is not him. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Bears start sinking lower in these rankings because C.J. Stroud looks incredibly 20 times better magnitude than Justin Fields does right now. And Bryce Young even shows me more than Justin Fields does right now.
And I'm going to throw this one out here. I know it's way far away, but if the Bears do get themselves a quarterback in the offseason, the number 1 undervalued player in next year's fantasy football draft will be Moore because he is going to be the sharpest knife in the drawer in terms of good receivers that never get used.
I mean, he got 90 yards last week.
Give him the ball.
It's terrible. It's terrible. And I'm sorry for Bears fans because, last year, maybe you thought it was him. But
after the offseason they gave me telling them everything that was true, showing it on film, y'all deserve it.
But
hold
on. Before we go to the Patriots here, I want to ask a very important question. Is that
ask away, David?
When we went back and looked at the Denver Broncos last year, and we talk about like Russell Wilson, and Russell Wilson looked bad, right? Because the coach and Hackett was bad. But this year, the Denver Broncos looked different.
Yeah.
Right. So when you have a coach that knows how to talk to a quarterback, right? Even in Arizona, the coach there now went from Josh Dobbs week 1, not really doing anything with him, to Josh Dobbs week 2. And Josh Dobbs week 2 looked way better than Josh Dobbs week 1.
More than 6 minutes in the building, yeah.
If you, I'm looking at it and I'm saying, Josh Dobbs is an inferior player athletically to Justin Fields.
Mm-hmm.
But you see development in just 1 week from Josh Dobbs as a veteran, right?
Well, this is why the argument that people say the coaching and the scheme doesn't matter. The coaching and the scheme means everything.
It absolutely.
In Arizona, Dobbs was the backup for the scheme last year that he was running in Cleveland. He brought him over for that reason. In all probability, Dobbs will be the backup in the same scheme next year. So Dobbs can just teach it beyond. And he's very smart to do that.
It's just embarrassing.
Eberflus doesn't even run a good defensive scheme. And when we talked to the Colts guy last year, who was the defensive coordinator from there, it's the softest defense in the league, and they need an elite middle linebacker. And what did they do last year? They traded the best one in football away. Nothing about the Bears has continuity from year to year, and it is a train wreck, blame everyone dumpster fire that, again, the city deserves. If any city deserves this, there's only one who might more, and it's Boston. Because talk about a team that's got to realize, do we have a quarterback or not? Because at least with Fields, you get the potential lore that, he could run for something. There's no run there. When your best athletic weapon is born, and let's face it, you line him up across all of the skill options in the league, everyone included, he's at best 100. I mean, he is not what you would call a talented playmaker and someone you want to build a team around, but they've had to. Mm-hmm. Mostly because in the post-Brady world, no one wants to deal with Belichick's crap, and he's also not a good GM at drafting. You combine those two, there's no way to replenish talent because they're also cheap. You can I don't see a way where the Patriots get out of this hole. And 2 years ago, everyone was saying there was no way that Belichick doesn't become the winningest coach ever. He needs about 20 or so more wins. I don't think he's getting it. And if he does get it, he's not getting in New England.
Yeah. Speaking to coaching changes, right? We went from a coach in Matt Patricia as their offense coordinator that was laughable. You saw what that did to Mac Jones. You saw what that did to the offense. It was one of the worst offenses in the league. Absolutely. Now through 2 games, Mac Jones has thrown 96 passes. That is an incredible number of passes through 2 games and is not a sustainable number for this team. This team's weapons, now they're in the NFL for a reason. They're talented than other people. But you're looking at Devontae Parker.
It's relative to their contemporaries.
Devontae Parker has been around for a while. He's been often hurt. He has talent. He can do it. Kendrick Bourne, like I said in the fantasy show, I liked him going into this week. He still had a lot of targets, but he just didn't do anything with the targets this week. There was no room for him to do anything with the targets. And then you go to Ramondre in the backfield, and Ramondre, okay, he's good enough on this team. But what I want to speak to, though, is that the defense is, good enough. And is Mac Jones, and this is the question I have, because I'm not ready to sell the Patriots yet as a team total. I'm not ready to sell them. And I know the optics behind putting them here at 28. And it's the long haul this season. But
this is the market saying they're 28.
I understand
it. In my opinion. I
just
agree with
that's why I said I understand the optics, but I'm not as a hope. Mac Jones, I mean, he's completed 55% of his passes, which is good enough for 16 in the league right now. Mm-hmm. So you look at him and you say, okay, well, he threw 96. That's a lot through just 2 games of the season. And eventually speaking, he's going to have to tone that down. So if he does, and that's what's letting the Patriots continue to win, and he tones it back, what else do they have? And if players start to get hurt, what do they have? And it's a scary time if you're a New England Patriots fan, because this is the year you have to decide. This is the year the decision is going to be made. Mac Jones, continue, keep him, keep going, or move on. Right now, you're kind of on the cusp of moving on from him. Even though he's looked better over these last 2 games, they're still not winning. They're not winning. And that's the problem, is that he's throwing these monumental amount of passes, and they're still not winning games. Some of that falls on the defense, but some of that also falls on the offense. You got to get in the end zone. You got to score, especially when you're playing teams that are better than you.
And the ultimate question, and this might be actually a realistic possibility, that I know Mac Jones can at least be accurate and will make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
And what I get with this is we're basically talking about the 5th pick overall when we're all said and done. Does putting Marvin Harrison Jr. on the Patriots dramatically change the Bears? No, because Fields can't get him the ball. Would putting Marvin Harrison Jones on the Patriots dramatically change the Patriots? Yeah. Absolutely. And
because this is the thing, Joe, is that I just looked back up the stat again here just to check. In that game against Philly, again, these results showed that the game was close, and it is what it is. 25-20. He was 35 for 54 with 316 yards. You threw 54 passes, and you only ended with 316 yards.
There's no explosion on that team.
Right?
That's
the other piece that I was just bringing up. No explosion. So you go and you look at this and you say, okay, in the game against
that's why Harrison Jr. would change that team.
Exactly. He completed 31 out of 42 passes, but he only got 231 yards, averaging out to 5.5 yards a pass. This is unlike the San Francisco 49ers that have a lot of yak last year. So Brock Purdy looks better because there's more yak. Mac Jones' optics look worse because nobody's pushing the ball forward. And it's kind of like when you watch Najee for the Steelers, you want him to be better. He has the talent to be better, but it's not happening. So
schemes matter.
You've got to something's wicked in New England. Maybe something will change as the year goes on, but you played 2 tough teams really hard and you still lost. So the schedule's not going to get easier for them. And
it does not. That's for reflecting upon the stats. Again, this is projecting where they'll end up. This is taking into account in all the future games and all the future information that's going.
I just have a weird hope for Mac Jones. That's all. I don't really like that I have that, but it's there.
Well, I understand that the biggest fear that Jones should have is that Boston, New York inferiority complex that they have up there. Do they look at him as saying, we're basically doing the Daniel Jones experience, and do we want to live that? I think that in a way that's more real in that city connection than any other 2 cities in this country.
And speaking of New
York, we got the Jets here. Got just destroyed by the Cowboys. And in some degree, the spread was 10 going into the game. It wasn't really shocking that they lost. It was shocking to me that they gave no effort in this, not effort, but no results in the second half. And Parsons owned them. Like Parsons and the Steelers pass rush this week were on a different level than the rest of the league. The Cowboys and the Steelers, that was. And when you look at that, the markets are scared to death of putting money on the Jets. That's the fundamental answer that's come away from this.
Yeah.
And I thought personally there was an overreaction when the Rodgers ripple hit the market last week and they dropped double-digit spots. But when we see this week dropping another 4, it's something that says people are not confident in the Jets. And when you look at Wilson, it's hard to fight it, But when we look at this team, it could become defensive run the ball, but you're just never going to win that style in Dallas. So that's a bigger ramification question for the playoffs later on when we talk Atlanta, Dallas. But right now in time, if you can't throw the ball successfully and stay on the field against the Cowboys, it ain't going to work. And this was just varsity team plays a JV team. That's what's supposed to happen.
Well, so here's the problem that I have with that, Joe, is that, you stated that in the team against Dallas, you want to try to run the ball, but it's very hard to do because of Parsons and the pass rush. But here's the other, terrible thing for the Jets. I'm just going back to the box score because I want to make sure I have it right.
Mm-hmm.
Your leading rusher was Zach Wilson.
Exactly. They got away from the run.
You rushed the ball 16 times. You decided to throw it 27 times. Your
total plays were less than
your
50.
best
That's another
agent,
testament.
Your best free agent acquisition got the ball 4 times. Your young, now maybe healthy running back who ripped off a 70-yard run last week, you gave him 4 carries, 2 for 9 yards. This is not just a Zach Wilson problem.
Oh, yeah.
This is a what were they thinking problem against the Dallas Cowboys. Because, yes, the Dallas Cowboys have one of the best defenses in football. This is why I like them to win this division this year. But what we saw, I mean, going into the season with the Jets, with Aaron Rodgers, you were like, this team, I was like, this team is going to make the playoffs. They have a chance to make the Super Bowl. Now you're questioning even if they're going to win like 6 games. Because not only does Zach Wilson look bad, but the coaching decisions.
Actually, it's ironic you put it at that number. Right now, the markets are saying 5.7.
Yeah. You look at it and you go out there. Your leading pass catcher was Garrett Wilson with 83 yards, but he didn't even get the most catches. That was Tyler Conklin. So you're hurting your young wide receiver, not letting him develop. You're not letting your develop. You're not giving the ball to your running backs. Zach Wilson's not a good decision maker. 12 of 27, and he threw for 3 interceptions. He played in 2 games, has already thrown 4 interceptions. These are like Nathan Peterman style numbers here. We know what we got out of him the other day. We know what we got out of him last season. And this is the thing, though, is what we brought up. I was watching this TikTok, and the talking heads on ESPN were saying it's really not a good idea to go get another veteran quarterback because Zach Wilson already knows the system. Here's the issue. He knows the system. He just can't do it. And
well, I want to point out something to go back to our conversation a little bit earlier today. The system incredibly matters. And we pointed out how Denver's system last year was below atrocious. And that's who's running their system now. There's a very good chance we're going to find out, is Zach Wilson the worst quarterback of all time? Or did we just pair him with a horrible offensive coach that made Russell Wilson look horrible? Because, oh, by the way, Russell Wilson's number 4 fantasy quarterback right now, despite the 2 losses. But all of this that we've just hated upon the New York Jets, they are the first bet of the day of the week that you can get incredible value at right now. They are hosting those New England Patriots, and the Patriots are currently a 3-point favorite. That is wrong. The Jets should be the favorite in this game by 1.5. Right now, you can get the Jets plus 3 points, which gives you 4.5 points of value, an absolute incredible amount against the spread, and it is the first bet that we are telling you for against the spread action. And we're going to have to speed this up. We spent a lot of time on those bottom 6 or so, but we're going to have to catch it up here. And with the Colts, we see them jump. And part of this is the reflection of the market saying that they trust Minshew more than a rookie. And that's part of the jump. The other part is granted, it was against Houston, but it didn't look that bad.
They didn't. And that was the sneaky thing about the Colts going into this season, whether you put in Richardson or Minshew. We thought Jonathan Taylor was going to be the running back going into the season. Obviously, he's not right now. But the offense is moving the ball. They moved the ball against Jacksonville. They're going to continue to be able to have an offense to move the ball. The question mark here is the defense going to clamp down, cause turnovers, do what they need to do. The Colts here at 26 is fair. I don't think anybody is is really like knowing that this team is going to do extremely well this year. They're about as mid to average as you can possibly get in a lot of categories. It's exciting to watch Anthony Richardson play. He's going to get hurt a lot if he keeps playing the way that he's playing. And so hopefully the coaching staff there can rein that in and develop him as a passer, because he does have a pretty fair arm, and, you know, he needs to be more accurate. But he's electric and he's fun to watch. And, you know, it's a shame that he went down, because that game, you know, if he stays in every single game this year, they have a really good chance. He gives them a really good chance to win, because he has that grit. He has that fire. It's something that you don't see out of Justin Fields, which is, you know, unfortunate for the Chicago Bears.
It's a fact of life, though. But we look at a team here that, you know, they're getting whacked a little bit, but no one thought they were going to beat the Niners anyway. I think Stafford is playing much better than I thought he was going to, coming off of the injury from last year. I get it, no Cooper Kupp. It's scary. The defense is a bunch of no-names. And how much money do you really want to invest in a rookie from BYU, even though he's going crazy? How long is that sustainable? And the markets are a little bit worried about it overall. But that being said, they are significantly tiers above the bottom of the barrels when we were entering this year thinking that there was a chance that the Rams could implode and have the first pick overall. I'm not getting those vibes at this point in the year.
So one of the things to say about the Rams, shout out Puka, setting a rookie record, setting a wide receiving record for having the most receptions in the first 2 weeks of the season across your first 2 games ever. Shout out him. He looks really good. But they played the Niners, which is obviously one of the highest ranked teams in the rankings. They just look good. But the Rams played them really tough for 3 quarters, even 4 quarters. And I don't know.
They're one interception away from that.
I don't know if that's to say that this Rams team filled with a bunch of no-name to the audience players is better than we thought they were going to be, or if it's a coming fact that, you know, Brock Purdy is still going through some things, and when he meets pretty good passing defenses, he's going to have a little bit of a problem this year, because the Steelers' pass defense is what it is, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm shocked by the Rams. I'm pleasantly surprised with the Rams. And I think the Colts and the Rams, for me, being at 26-25, is a fair assessment. They look better than what we thought they were going to do at the beginning of the season. And it looks like they're probably not going to be as bad down the stretch as a lot of teams think, or as a lot of us thought was going to happen. That 10-point, I believe, was it a 10-point spread that LA had last week?
It was a 10-point spread that ended up getting cut down to a 7 due to a garbage time field goal. One of our wins from last week.
And they got it. So, I mean, you know, you look at it and you're like, the Rams are going to probably keep a lot of games close. Who do they play this week?
This week, the Rams are playing.
Who do they play here?
LAR's on Monday Night Football in Cincinnati. 2 Monday night games this week.
This could be a win for the Rams. The way that the Bengals have been playing, the way that their health has been, this could be a win for the Rams, and I wouldn't be surprised if it happens and you take the money line. Not an official bet, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Rams money line wins this week.
Yeah, like I said, not an official bet, but it's certainly someone who lives in the AFC North wanting to see Cincinnati lose is always happy. But one of the current themes about this area of the rankings is we had horrible expectations for a lot of these teams, and they're kind of maintaining and showing stuff. Now, Washington, you could argue, definitely beat the worst team in football in week 1, but maybe Denver's not good, and they're just beating secretly bad teams that people don't know about, and they might end up being one of them. But you're down 20, I believe it was 21-3, and they didn't quit. It was 21-3 in the first quarter. And they just slowly and methodically got back into that game and then stretched it out by 11 at one point. You know, they put up 35 points in a row until that final garbage time Hail Mary touchdown.
Right.
it was impressive. The defense clamps, and I'm not definitely going to go out here and say Sam Howell's looking amazing, but he had no quit in him. And that, to me,
I like
is the
that.
difference between this team and the Bears, because it's true. The Bears imploded when they got down on Green Bay.
They quit.
Denver just was like, all right, I don't care we're playing a Hall of Fame coach. We're winning this game. And then Denver lost and Washington stepped up.
The Commanders are an interesting team because, Denver could have won that game had they made that, 2-point conversion, send it in overtime, all that nonsense.
Denver could have won that game 6 different ways.
Right. But to your point about Sam Howell, through 2 games here, he's 46 for 70. And so you're looking at it, he's throwing the ball a lot. Mm-hmm. He's completing over half of his passes. He's looking settled into the offense. He's not looking scared. When pressure comes, he's taking.
Terry.
The defense, Sweat, Chase Young, they're doing what they need to do on defense to keep themselves in a game. Sam Howell is doing it. They've got a running back in Brian Robinson that last week looked good. The week before looked good. So all that news about Gibson seems to be, that we got in fantasy season.
Running game looked great. Robinson looked amazing.
You look at it and you say to yourself, this team has all the right pieces to be successful. Mm-hmm. This team has young, talented players leading the team. And they have a coaching staff that has seen winners with Bieniemy, right? Bieniemy has coached winners. He sees winners. And he's giving the mentality to these younger players that need it because not many people believe in them, right? Mm-hmm. And you look at this, you look at Bieniemy just as the season went on, right? Just through 2 games, Logan Thomas is now hurt, which we thought was going to happen. But again, using the tight end, he's 6 catches out of 11 targets, right?
Yeah.
The ball is moving in the right places. Mm-hmm. The coaches know how to coach this team. I wouldn't be surprised if they win a couple more games than we expected before the season started. And maybe the Giants belong in the basement and not the Commanders. But we will see as the season goes on that one.
And this, to me, is the most surprising 2-0 team in football. Baker Mayfield is winning a football game. Like, he's supporting a fantasy wide receiver, which he had never done before. Now, granted, that just might be a testament to Mike Evans. But this team is, first off, I gotta love a 6-inch pick six. I just always love when a big man scores that close to the end zone. But
nice.
But just like Washington, they're not dying. They're not rolling over and just fading away. And you could also make the argument they're not exactly playing the best teams in their wins. But at the end of the day, a win's a win. Baker has taken a team to the playoffs before. And, Tampa, it's not like this isn't the same core that was in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. They know how to win as a unit. And if Baker can kind of fill the Brady shoes, which on the field isn't that hard. I mean, Brady was scuffing balls left and right last season, and competent quarterback play would have been better than last year's Brady. Maybe everyone wrote off the Bucs just saying because he's not Tom Brady, but Baker's better than last year's Tom Brady.
Yeah, to that point, that was one of the things that we were questioning going into the season is what Baker Mayfield we would get. Would we get a Baker Mayfield kind of Sam Darnold-like combination of I look good against bad teams, but I'm going to look good against it.
I mean, that's still might be reality.
I'm going to look good against bad teams, whatever. But a win is a win. You win the game. And more so than a win is a win, these wins, they didn't really let their pedal off or their foot off the pedal offensively. Rashad White looked good in game 2. Mike Evans has looked good. Chris Godwin has looked good. Baker Mayfield is getting the ball to them. He's safely getting the ball to them as well. You look at his stats here. 3 touchdowns, no picks. No interceptions. Now, this will all change next week. You look, they're facing off against the Eagles. Mm-hmm. However, the Eagles' pass defense is not as good as we thought going into this season. It's still great, but
we'll see. Baker has a 3 interception game left in him.
But Baker is perfectly capable of throwing 3 picks. So I put it to you, though, to say there is a chance, albeit a slight chance, but a chance, the Buccaneers come out on top in that game against Philadelphia. I don't see it happening realistically, but if you look at the stats, you're probably looking at like a 75, less than that, like 85-15 Philadelphia Bucks. There's just something about Baker Mayfield with this team right now that is better than Mac Jones. And it's just better than what Philadelphia has put out on the table so far.
Well, it's actually much closer than that, Bob. It's actually 63-37.
There you go.
And the spread right now is 5. We're projecting it should be 4. Not big enough to put a bet on, but just a fun fact that way that, Tampa's not as bad as people think.
There's a very real possibility they cover that spread. There's a very real possibility they cover that spread and then jump back up.
That would be the lean, is to take the points right now. Take Tampa in the 5. But we go to a team that's probably overrated ever since Russell got there. But how do you blow that game? As I said, Denver had like 40 chances to win that game. All they had to do was convert some first downs. They weren't able to do it. They really just they got crock-potted while having a 21-3 lead. Like, that should never be able to happen. And they just never pressed their will into the football game against the team that, as everything we just talked about Washington 2 minutes ago, we don't know what they are yet. But we know that Denver's unable to put their stamp of victory on anything.
Here's the issue, Joe. When you look back at the box score here, I'm going to read it off to you because it's going to be interesting. The only quarter they led was the first quarter.
They led it big.
14-3. Every other quarter, 11-7, 7-3, 14-9 in favor of the Commanders. When you look at the Broncos as a team, this defense isn't what we hoped it would be, isn't what we thought it would be. It is perfectly capable of getting up a lot of points. This offense, it doesn't have quit in it, right? There's no quit right now in the Denver Broncos because this is last year. When you go into last year, they would have quit.
No, last year they quit hard.
They would have quit. Russell Wilson would have been playing hero ball the whole game, and it just wouldn't have been good. But to Russ's credit, right, through 1 interception this game, 3 touchdowns, he has looked better. Mm-hmm. Marvin Mims looked good. There was a lot of highlights coming out for him.
We gave him the ball 2 times, though.
Mm-hmm. He got 2 receptions, but he got 113 yards. But I'm really curious about this running game because Samaje Perine was non-existent second game of the season. Yeah. Javonte Williams was back, only had like 50 yards. And this was a concern going into the season that you had where you stated very specifically that you like Samaje Perine more than Javonte Williams.
I do.
Cause of the injury. You still do. Mm-hmm. And I question why they're not allowing Javonte to gain back a little bit of spurt before throwing him into the fire, because I think if they would have been able to run the ball a little more with Samaje Perine in this game, that this score probably wouldn't have been that high, and it would have probably went into the Broncos' favor. But there's some question marks about the decisions that are being made, when they're being made. And to your point, you got to get the first downs. When
they just couldn't. I mean, it was just that straightforward.
And I don't think they're as bad as their 0-2 record says. But definitely
they don't have an easy schedule in front of them. They had their 2 winnable games. They didn't get them.
Yeah, like I was saying, definitely these 2 games were the games they should have won, and they lost. And so that's a problem.
It is. Well, let's go to a lovely solution.
Oh, that was nice.
Yeah, I know. I was waiting for doing a little pun like that. But Jordan Love, what is it? 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. I mean, they lost the game ultimately to Atlanta. I would argue anytime you lose a game because the opponent's running on you while you have a lead, that's on your defense. And I
The
don't know how
opponent's
many
better though.
years we've been saying Green Bay's first round defense should be stepping up, and they just don't. Green Bay is at a point of, do we have an explosive offense or not? We have the potential of being explosive, and we're trying to figure it out. But this one is all on the defense, and the markets are getting concerned. Green Bay was never a team that they were super obsessed with in the first place, but dropping a game to the Falcons is worrisome to folks.
Well, to me, I mean, I know it's worrisome to lose any game, but the Falcons are a good team. And I feel that a lot of the math isn't really taking that into account as much. They are, so far at least, because that running game, as we talked about all off season, best in the league. When you have the best running game, when you have leads, you will win games because you can just take it and keep going. To Green Bay's credit, their offense has been extremely efficient in the amount of time that they've had the ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, Jordan Love coming off 6 touchdowns, 0 interceptions.
Yeah.
But they're incredibly balanced. When you look at this game against the Falcons, and I see this as being a game script against the Falcons from pretty much most of the season. Quarterback throwing for 25 passes, running the ball 21 times total. That is extremely balanced, but that's also extremely limiting, right? Mm-hmm. From that means you ran a total of 46 offensive snaps without penalties.
That's
right?
the problem. The defense just let Atlanta hold the ball forever.
You're not, I mean, they had a chance to win this game. And
I mean, they did have the ball left with 1:20.
Right. And it's and that's on the defense. If we go back and we look at the Bears game and we just take a quick look at that box score, you got it 27 times passing, 32 times rushing. So you had it more possessions in that game to score more points, and they did score more points.
Yeah.
So I think this ranking's a little bit off because the offensive efficiency is so good right now for the Packers, and Jordan Love is doing good things. They're balanced. They're running and passing pretty much exactly the same. And this is a decent offense. The problem is the defense. It has always been that defense that is going to hold back this offense, whether it's led by Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre. When the two of them come together, then you have a really winning Packers organization. But like we said about all these first rounders, not really doing anything. And here's the other thing too, Joe. They won this game, or they lost this game by 1 without their best running back, without their top wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
They have them. This game goes probably a little bit different and maybe in Green Bay's favor. But I think that it still would have went in Atlanta's favor just because they had the ball more.
Yeah,
I'm not worried about Green Bay's offense. I think they're going to keep climbing these rankings by the end of the season.
We'll see. Part of the hardship of the Green Bay efficiency numbers is they did it against Chicago's defense, and everyone's going to let it Chicago. You got to keep that factor.
But they play them twice.
They only got it one more time, though. But going to a team that I thought the defense would be the absolute worst in the NFL, and for really the first 4 drives of this game, the Raiders controlled that game. They controlled it early, and then you see the exact moment it broke. Mm-hmm. And that was when they were like, we should just pressure Jimmy G. And literally, if he got behind the sticks, he was afraid to throw the ball downfield to anyone not named Adams. And all they did was double team Adams and wait for the defense to crack. And then the Raiders defense cracked. And then once it broke, Josh Allen will make an omelet. Once he can crack you, you're done. And that's what happened.
That's true.
Although we do got to speed up, though, Bob. We're at the halfway point.
Problem. He's going to kill my boy. If he, I mean, with Jacoby Myers in, I think this team is better.
Yeah.
I think that this team is with Jacoby and with Devontae in, you see a better Jimmy G because he has more people to throw to, more decisions to make. He's a smart quarterback. He doesn't try to make errors. He's extremely efficient quarterback. But the problem with this team is the problem we didn't think was going to be this team is Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs carries, I saw on like Twitter, X now, that it's like -4, -2, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 2, 2, 8, 8. You're going to 4, 4. He has 28 total carries and 46 total yards. That is a 1.6 average.
Buffalo's defense was basically put 8 guys in the blocks and double team Adams.
But listen, Jimmy G has only thrown the ball 50 times. So that means that in order for this ball to get down the field, Josh Jacobs needs to be more efficient, needs to get in this game. And I see the Raiders falling back, just like I see the Packers climbing up. But again, the divisions are a bit differently. So problem town.
That's exactly it. The thing the Raiders got going for them is Denver's in their division. But the team that everyone thought was going to be horrible, I mean, I think I wrote off the Titans 16 different ways in the offseason. But they're winning games. And even the game they lost to New Orleans, they were in it. And New Orleans is one of these teams that obviously we haven't said yet. But the Titans are here. They're not imploding. Tannehill does not look like the worst player ever. And this defense in Tennessee is secretly great.
It's not a secret, Joe. It's not a secret. I've been saying it for a while now.
Oh, man.
The defense is the best unit in that division.
Possibly, yeah.
I think overall, too, when you even put in some of the offenses and then the other defenses. This defense is good. It's going to keep them in a lot of games. The only thing I want to say about the Titans is when Tannehill rolls, this team looks better. If the quarterback play sucks and they have to over-rely on the running game, they are not going to win games. So the Titans will be okay as long as they aren't facing world-beater defenses. If they start facing world-beater defenses, Tannehill will throw picks. Tannehill will make mistakes. That's what he does. That's what he is. I still like Will Levis's opportunities in the future a little bit better. But for right now, you give Tannehill the time. You allow him to give the ball to Derrick Henry, Tajay Spears. I think the Titans are going to be fine. Secret, I think the Titans have a fairly decent shot at winning this division if everything shakes down right for them. Again, that has everything to do with Tannehill and everything to do with the health of this defense. They have a good chance.
And how it will be when they play Jacksonville. Because
defense. I mean, they play.
Obviously, these Vikings are accounting for who's on your schedule and who's left. And right now they're projected to have the 19th pick. So this is
a fair ranking for them. I want to talk about this team though here because I can't I mean,
is there a team that's more dependent upon one individual skill player than anyone else?
It's them. It is them.
And maybe it's Henry in Tennessee.
No, because they won that game. I mean, Henry did score a touchdown and got 70 yards, but Ryan Tannehill threw for 3 touchdowns. So, and he's throwing it to randos, outside of DeAndre Hopkins. He was throwing it to completely random people, But the Minnesota Vikings Mea Culpa, again, Madison is not him. Madison will not be him. The optics on him were bad going into the season, but we were like, well, maybe. No.
Opportunity was there.
Bad. Watch him come out and have a great game this week, but still bad. With the Vikings, they're over. I mean, if Kirk Cousins isn't on with Jeff, Minnesota has no shot to winning games. I mean, Kirk Cousins was on last week. This past week, he was off the week before. But they Still didn't win. So, I mean, you're looking at 0-2 start to season. These are games that, again, like we said last year, those numbers, if flipped, they would have been last in the season. They're not a good team. I mean, in my
they're not a good team, but not too many teams are going to come out of playing Philadelphia and we're going to think we're a good team.
In my personal opinion, and I know the math is giving you the rankings here, but I would have Green Bay ahead of them. I just don't. I mean, going into the season, I thought that they might have a chance to win the division because of their offense, but this defense just. It's so.
Well, part of it is
so
the starting point of what people believe in them. And I think that's where our next team is getting benefit from. New York Football Giants in that crazy comeback against Arizona. And one of my losses last week was I told you guys Giants -4. I still believe if Saquon doesn't get hurt, they cover that. But crazy comeback, talk about no quit in them. And that second half team, when they just let Danny be Danny, that was a fun offense to watch. He's scrambling, making plays. Talk about throwing to no-name receivers. But it was something to behold. I don't think they have a snowball's chance in hell in San Francisco, but it was a fun watch. I don't think it'll be fun on Thursday to watch, though. I think it'll just be a total crock pot. We're going to watch McCaffrey just steamroll them. But
I have nothing to say about the Giants. I have zero good things to say about the Giants. You will see this week, without Saquon, Matt Breida, Gary Brightwell, whatever they've got going on back there. Yes, some of it is scheme, but Saquon is super talented. One of, if not the best running back in the league, in my opinion. You lose him, he gives you the best opportunity to win games on a day-to-day basis because you have to scheme for Saquon. I know you have to scheme for Breida and Gary Brightwell because you have to scheme for everybody, but not like Saquon. And Saquon makes Daniel Jones better, makes him look better. It is not the other way around. And this team is going to suffer without Saquon. And it just so happens that they draw possibly the worst draw that they could have drawn coming out of a week where they lose Saquon.
Going to the Niners with a short week.
I think the Niners are probably going to win by 7, if not more in this game.
Yeah, the spread for that one it's 10. And like I said, that it's not one of the ones we're going to put our official bet on. It's a no touch action for me, quite frankly. It's a trap. Either way I look at it.
It's a trap.
Well, we go to the other team, into the first team of the second half. Despite a win on Monday Night Football, the market's saying drop them a tick, not loving the offense. You can't get 2 touchdowns from defense every game.
Fire Canada. Fire Canada.
For those of you who had surround sound on for Monday Night Football, you got to hear the Steelers faithful chanting that.
Did you go to that game? Did you go to that game?
I was there.
Okay. Were you chanting as well?
Of course I was.
Of course. Everybody knows this team, just like Denver with Hackett and Hackett this year on the Jets, this team's offense is going nowhere. It's going backwards. Outside of that great catch and run by George Pickens, which was just amazing. Kenny Pickett, in his mind, is evolving, right? He's taking blame for things. He, at the press conference when asked about, the Fire Canada chant, he's like, oh, we gotta. Oh, but T.J. Watt played great. This is a big problem. When you are saying, yeah, we got to work on things, our defense is great. The Steelers' pass rush and the Dallas Cowboys' pass rush are the 2 most elite in the league, it feels like, because of Watt, because of Parsons. And you can make a case that the totality of the parts of Tennessee makes them a very, very good team as well. But the Steelers' offense, doesn't matter if Jalen Warren's in. It doesn't matter if Najee's in. Those 2 players are probably 2 of the most misused players in the NFL today. top 5, top 10 at the very least. Najee looks like he's going backwards half the plays that he's in. And when he's going forwards, it looks like somebody who is 60 years old and hasn't trained in running could be faster than him. And there's a problem with the scheme. There's a problem with the talent. I thought Allen Robinson was going to shine in this game. Did not. They
the first 2 targets of the game and basically nothing after.
Didn't even get anything going. So problem talent. And I blame 75% of that on Canada. I blame 75% on Canada. I put probably about 10 on Tomlin and the other 15 on Kenny Pickett, because Kenny Pickett just has to do it. Ben Roethlisberger doing it in spite of Canada. You just have to spite him right now. I don't want to get into it anymore. Canada needs to go. Outside of Eberflus, the coach that needs to go the most, that's not a head coach, is Matt Canada. 100%.
Despite everything we just said right there, that is one of our bets of the week. Sunday Night Football, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to Las Vegas. Currently, the Vegas Raiders are a 2.5-point favorite. They should be a 1.5-point dog, which means you can take the Pittsburgh Steelers right now and get 2.5 points when you should be paying points, because they are the true favorite, even though it's not said right now. That is the second bet that we're giving you guys today. The Pittsburgh Steelers plus the 2.5, because they should be the outright favorites.
And you got to understand, too, that that's probably going to be a home game because Steelers fans travel.
Sure, at least a bowl game.
And it's Vegas, so it's a good look.
Going to a team here that's just...
They're there.
I don't know how they're winning, Bob. I just don't know how to say this.
We said it. We said it last week. This is a letdown look-ahead sandwich for the Lions. This is a must-win game for Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
Seattle could not start the year 0-2 based off of everything that you looked at with their division. You cannot start 0-2. Mm-hmm. And they came out, they won. But that's nothing to say against Detroit. Detroit played a very good game. Amon-Ra is banged up, but the rest of those wide receivers took over the reins. Montgomery got banged up, so they're going to have to try to figure out how to use Jahmyr Gibbs. And they lost one of their better pass rushers in Justin Houston. So Detroit took a lot of damage in that game, as we would expect from a Detroit team, disappointing us a little bit. But they played well. Detroit played well. Mm-hmm. Seattle played well. They did this again last year. They put up a boatload of points last year, boatload of points this year. Again, Seattle looked really bad week 1, especially in the second half. They looked better week 2. I don't think they're going to have a problem because Pete Carroll is one of the best coaches of our time, and he'll get this team together again. It's not a talent problem for the Seahawks. It's just a mentality problem.
I do think the Seahawks will be there when it's all said and done. A team I'm worried about, even though they're ranked up high, starting their slip here, is the Cleveland Browns. We look at them. They win week 1 against Cincinnati, but everyone thought Cincinnati was a juggernaut. They don't look that way anymore. They can't win against a team that literally goes 3 and out 8 times, and you can't get a win out of there. Watson was the worst player on that field on Monday Night Football.
Yeah,
missing wide open passes, just not being comfortable. He is the only quarterback in the NFL who is under 45% when pressured, and he is just a complete and utter bust. And he has brought down the entire franchise with him because they stuck with him. Like, you can say we can
Cleveland curse, baby.
They can't move on from Watson.
Cleveland curse. This team going into the season, the one shining point of what this team is putting out on the field is that defense is much different, dramatically better than it was last year.
Mm-hmm.
So again, when you have a dramatically better defense and your offense is just so, you have still a chance to win games as it goes. But you're right. Deshaun Watson has lost whatever magic he had in Houston. He doesn't have it. He looked bad, missing, like you said, wide open wide receivers. This is not a good offense. And
now that they lost their Chubb, they're in trouble.
oh my God. Yeah, yes.
Sorry, I buried the lead on that.
Jerome Ford looks electric. They brought in Kareem Hunt today, but you can't replace Nick Chubb. And I think that that's going to be a very big problem because now they're going to have to rely on Watson more. And it is what it is for Cleveland right now. It's a curse. They're probably going to keep slipping in the rankings. Thankfully, they're in a division that really doesn't know what's going on. So give them a benefit of the doubt at this point in time, but their offense looks bad.
I'm interested to see what they do against the Titans. I think it'll be a telling game for both teams. Has Cleveland fixed their horrendous run game from last year?
I think the Titans win that, honestly.
Yeah, we have the spread as correct at a -3 in the Cleveland's favor, but that's mostly in Cleveland.
That game's probably, now that I say it, it's probably not going to happen, but I see that as being a game that's probably going to hit the under, and it's probably going to be maybe like a 16-14 style game because these two defenses are really good, and their offenses just aren't.
I do predict it to be, in terms of total time, the fastest game of the weekend. All they're going to do is run the ball. Although Watson threw a million incomplete passes. It felt like that Monday night game took forever. All it was incomplete passes.
It did take forever.
But let's go to the team who was in the lowest scoring game of the weekend that was supposed to be the highest. Jacksonville Jaguars maintained 12. Kind of everyone expected them to lose that game to Kansas City. So not surprised that the markets haven't radically changed them. I think that they're clearly the class of their division. I get that you just talked with Tennessee a little bit before, but I don't really got a whole lot to add. I think that you're not going to beat Mahomes in Kansas City. Take it, move on, next game.
The one thing to point out is just, the missed opportunities for the Jaguars in this game against Kansas City. Dropping balls or
it had to be 6 times a receiver
getting pushed out of bounds. It's just Christian Kirk came back this week, looked electric. Calvin Ridley is Calvin Ridley. Zay Jones was non-existent. This, for fantasy purposes, it's going to be a problem figuring out which one of those two is going to perform on a week-to-week basis if you have them on your team. But the Jaguars will be fine. This is a game we didn't expect them to win. This is a game we fully expected Kansas City to win, especially after losing week 1 to Detroit. So I'm not surprised. But what I am surprised is they couldn't score. And Trevor Lawrence ending with 8 fantasy points. No bueno from the Jacksonville Jaguars. They need to get that together. They need to stay healthy, and they need to make sure that they're stepping in bounds because that was weird.
Absolutely. And this team, Jaguars, have an upside. The next team here, these guys are in trouble. Burrow is injured, and had he listened to Chase and not played the first 2 games, they still would have had 2 losses, except maybe he'd be playing in game 3. He does 1 scramble at the end of the game, pulls the calf. The entire game, he looks like he's afraid to get hit. This Bengals team is in serious trouble because Burrow is literally too afraid to sit in there long enough to get the ball to Chase. And as important as Higgins is, and Higgins is great, you're not winning through Higgins. You win through Chase. And if Burrow isn't able to step up, I don't see a way that this team doesn't become the Bengals of old.
So it might be the Bob curse that I threw on the Bengals early in the season, saying that Joe Burrow is my favorite quarterback. Still haven't bought a Joe Burrow jersey because every time I buy a jersey, the player gets hurt. So I don't want him to have a career like that. But one of the things about the Bengals is that Higgins is getting the ball a lot. He got targeted a lot game 1, peppered again game 2. I played against him in fantasy. That was not fun. But the fact that Joe Burrow's competitive spirit has now dashed the hopes of at least these next 4 or 5 games for the Bengals is very problematic because we fully expected Joe Burrow not to play week 1. Jamar Chase did not want him to play week 1. And this is it. Now regretting it. because he was scared. He looked bad week 1. He looked bad week 2. Now he's hurt. He re-injured the same calf. This is not good for the Bengals. However,
he's going to be out for the year. He just doesn't know it yet.
However, we will see what happens to I don't even know who the backup quarterback is. Is it Trevor Siemian or something like that?
Oh, yeah.
That's not good. So if it were me, I'm selling stock that I have in Bengals wide receivers. We did say not to draft Chase high. We liked Higgins a little bit better, but still, if you have any of them, I would hate to do it because I love Joe Burrow, love Chase, love Higgins. But it's scary, and it's a scary time if you're a Bengals fan because these rankings you could continue to plummet because the defense struggled again. The offense struggled again, and they're only ranked this high because of
where they started.
Right, of
and
how
so
they
really
started.
It's because of how they started so damn high.
They started high. They're going to keep falling if Joe Burrow can't get it together.
Talking about a team that started high, lost one that, I mean, admittedly, if Detroit would have started 2-0, the world would have burned. So,
I told you.
The Detroit, I think, is in a fine spot. I don't think, like I said, we kind of do need a hustle here, being over the hour mark. But at the end of the day here, I think they're fine. I think that there's no one in their division who's going to challenge them when it's all said and done. And
I think offensively, the only team that will is Green Bay, and that's what offensively, Green Bay and Minnesota will. But Green Bay may have the defense to stop them. Probably not. So these are going to be back and forth games. I do think that the injury of Justin Houston is really going to kill the mojo of this defense. So that is something to worry about. But Dan Campbell is a good coach. He pushes his players really hard. He loves the team, loves the city, loves the work. I think that the Detroit Lions will be fine, but I am really worried about that injury to Houston.
Going to the team who just owns the ball, man. The Atlanta Falcons, you said pre-year that you're thinking they're going on fire. We have them now ranked as going to end the year with the 9th most wins in the regular season. Dude, you run the ball, you control the clock. It doesn't matter how big your defense is. It's just that straightforward.
And Ritter played a good game. Got the ball to Drake London. Like, Drake London didn't get any points week 1. Week 2, he ends up with like 18 fantasy points. He got a touchdown, 67 yards on 7 receptions or something like that. Only concern here, misusage of Kyle Pitts. I don't understand. I don't understand it. I'll never understand it of why Kyle Pitts can't do anything. Maybe he was a Matt Ryan.
He might just be a bust.
One of the things I heard is that, Kyle Pitts might have been like a Matt Ryan guy, and now he's just a vestige of that old team that isn't there anymore, and that's not who their identity is right now. Bijan's electric. Tyler Algier faded in the background this game. I expect him to come back in most games. The defense is good enough to win games and hold leads.
Well, any defense is good enough when your offense holds the ball for 35 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, the best thing about the Atlanta Falcons is that in every single game, they are facing probably the least amount of plays in the game. And it's easy to be a good defense when you don't have to be on the field.
That's exactly it. Talking about a team that does the opposite to you. They just own the ball and they score and you're in trouble. And overreaction week 1, the Bills plummeted and they look good now.
I just don't like the Bills. There's just something about them. I have Josh Allen on my fantasy team, have Stephon Diggs on my fantasy team. I'm not saying that these guys aren't elite players. Love James Cook's production so far this year. He's really firing on all cylinders to start the year. But this team is problematic because of Josh Allen. And the way that Josh Allen plays is that, week 1 throwing 3 picks, this week throwing 3 touchdowns. When you're playing, there is I feel like in Buffalo there's an over-reliance on Josh Allen's elite athleticism that is coming to grips in certain games. When they're facing teams that can close out games with their defenses, this is going to be very problematic for Josh Allen. And it's thankful for him, though, and for the Buffalo Bills, that they don't really have any other of those defenses in their division outside of, the Jets.
Yeah.
So their schedule, though, is still, not the best for them.
It's not.
So, again, nothing against Josh Allen, but fully expecting him to be the interception leader again this year, probably. And I'm surprised he didn't throw a lot in the last game. But
the Raiders can't catch.
But the Bills,
Raiders played incredibly soft defense against him, forcing him to throw it underneath, and then he did.
For me, I think the Bills are one of the most overrated teams in the NFL. They're a good team, but I just...
See, it's interesting you say that, Bob, because now we are at our third bet of the week. The Buffalo Bills are going to Washington, D.C. this week, and they are currently a 6.5-point favorite. We say that they should only be a 3-point favorite, which means you should take those Washington Commanders and the 6.5 points, because everything you just said, if a defense can hold them, can keep them in there, plus the stick-to-itiveness of DC, we're not saying that DC is going to win. We're just going to say that give them 6.5, and it's going to be enough.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and Josh Allen can make mistakes against that defense. So,
absolutely,
and the Commanders have a running game, so
that's why we projected it should be a field goal game instead of a 6.5-point game, and that's the difference. Let's go to a team who just blew everyone out, gave us one of our losses last week in the Cowboys blowing up those Jets. Love them. Interesting fact about the next two teams, we actually had them move a tier up in terms of their wins, being the Cowboys here and the Dolphins. But at the end of the day, you don't get to keep continuing up here because there's other teams around here who are skyrocketing up this board here, Bob. I just want to hit a quick minute talking about those Dolphins and Cowboys real quick.
Yeah, Dallas and Miami have really good offenses. Humming, CeeDee Lamb looked great. The running game, Tony Pollard looked really good. Miami, similarly, Tyreek Hill had a down game, but Tua still was getting the ball downfield. Waddle's hurt, so I'm a little concerned about that. Dallas's defense is throttling people. It's making both the Jets offense and the Giants offense look like JV teams, which maybe their offenses are, but I mean, it's scary what Dallas can do defensively, and it's scary what Miami can do offensively. And I noticed you're missing a team.
Well, the team I had to bring up here is the 5th team. I believe that this is the highest they are.
You're missing a team from these rankings.
Oh, they will come up, but the team that's in 5th here.
No, the Chargers. We didn't talk about the Chargers.
Over the Chargers. I apologize for those San Diego Superchargers.
The LA Chargers. Where were they at?
The Chargers are number 14.
Number 14. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, sorry about that. Just click the button and went right over them. But the Baltimore Ravens right here are at number 5. The absolute highest they're going to be all year. I don't see a possibility of them cracking the top 4 being in the AFC North. The 3 teams we just said before, Miami, Dallas, and Buffalo, in my opinion, all will finish ahead of Baltimore. Just right now, the market's cruising high on the Ravens. And when you have that, it's just something to be aware of, that this is how you end up being overrated a couple weeks from now. And I'm putting the Baltimore Ravens as one of the teams on that list. And the next 4, I think, are just going to be concretely your top 4, and just going to be what order. And we kind of all know who they are. Kansas City Chiefs. Can't really say anything about that. The New Orleans Saints, most people have no idea how easy their schedule is, and that's why they can select when it's not like the other. But with the Saints, they are our final bet of the week for our 4th action here. The Saints are going into Green Bay, and right now they are projected to be the underdog. The New Orleans Saints should be a 3.5-point favorite.
That doesn't make any sense.
That is a 5.5-point difference based upon what the spread has and what it should be. Take the two points in New Orleans. Take New Orleans on the money line. They should be a 3.5-point
Well,
favorite. This is the pick of the week.
So I see where that issue is, though, is because the running game is now down to like Tony Jones and Taysom Hill, and that doesn't breed much confidence if Kendre Miller can't come back, the rookie. So I see it. I see why maybe those odds are a little bit off, but yeah, that they should be favored in that game regardless of that decision.
Exactly, their defense is so much better. And then obviously we round out with the final two here of the Philadelphia Eagles and the San Francisco 49ers. Went a little bit long in today's episode by spending so much time on the bottom feeders. We will do the opposite next week and just blow past those Chicago Bears and Arizona Cardinals. We love being with you, team players. Click like and subscribe and leave your comments with us as we'll be with you here live later in the week.